Autumn winds whipped against the windows of the West Mansion, now home to the Mercer family. Olivia watched from the covered veranda as Jason chased the twins through the Japanese garden, their laughter echoing among the trees colored by fall. 2 years had passed since Daniel's departure, and life had found a new rhythm. "Uncle Jason, running isn't fair," Ellie protested, her 7-year-old legs working furiously to escape. Her health, once so concerning, was now stable, allowing her to run almost as fast as her brother. "Come on, Ellie, this way," Ethan shouted, his blue eyes gleaming with strategy as he led his sister behind the gazebo. Olivia smiled, wrapping herself more tightly in her sweater. Jason West had surprised them all. Daniel's nephew, initially just fulfilling a promise made to his dying uncle, had become an integral part of their lives. Not a father substitute, but something equally valuable, a friend, a mentor, a living connection to the man who had so unexpectedly transformed their lives. "Are you just going to watch or help me with these little geniuses?" Jason called out, dramatically falling to his knees as the twins simultaneously attacked him. Olivia laughed. 3 against 1 seems fair. You run a corporate empire. Surely 2 small children aren't a problem. "I underestimated my opponents," Jason replied, now lying on the grass while the twins celebrated their victory. Later, with the children finally in bed after extracting promises of one more story and an extra glass of water, Olivia found Jason on the terrace, the same spot where she and Daniel had talked that first fateful night. "They finally asleep?" Jason asked, handing her a glass of wine. "For now. Ethan is obsessed with that chemistry set you brought. I had to promise you'd do experiments with him tomorrow." "He has the same analytical mind as Uncle Dan," Jason observed, a soft smile on his lips. At 30, he had competently stepped into the role of CEO of West Global, and business analysts who initially predicted his failure now praised him for infusing the company with a humanity its founder hadn't always displayed. "And Ellie has the stubbornness," Olivia added, taking a sip of her wine. Yesterday she informed her teacher that her method of teaching fractions was suboptimal, and suggested an alternative approach. Jason laughed. "I bet she used exactly that word. Suboptimal. The teacher sent me a very polite email asking where my 7-year-old daughter learned the word suboptimal. Guilty." Jason raised his hands in surrender. "Apparently, our corporate report review sessions are having side effects." Olivia smiled, but there was a question in her eyes that Jason had noticed increasingly frequently in recent weeks. "What is it?" he asked gently. "Shouldn't you be, I don't know, at a gala event or something?" "It's Friday night, Jason. Most eligible bachelors in Portland don't spend their evenings reading stories to children who aren't theirs." Jason studied the city skyline before answering. "I guess it depends on what you value," he finally said. "I have all the networking events and corporate galas I could want during the week. This," he gestured toward the house where the twins were sleeping, "is more real than anything I find there." A cool breeze passed between them, and Olivia unconsciously moved closer. Her phone chimed, interrupting the moment. "It's the board," she said, frowning at the email that had just arrived. "The quarterly financial report for the Children's Fund. Apparently there are some irregularities that need my signature. At this hour." Jason looked equally confused. "The legal department doesn't usually send those documents after hours." "It says it's urgent." Olivia felt a spasm of anxiety. The fund Daniel had established for the twins was their security, the guarantee that no matter what happened with her own business, the children would have their needs met. Jason frowned. "Let me see." After examining the email, his eyes narrowed. "This didn't come from our legal department. The email domain is wrong. It's westglobalL.com, not westglobal.com. Someone's trying to get your access credentials." "A phishing attempt? Why? The Children's Fund isn't exactly public knowledge." "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." Jason was already typing on his phone, alerting the company's security team. That night marked the beginning of something none of them could have foreseen. In the weeks that followed, more sophisticated attempts to access the financial records related to the Twins Fund emerged. West Global Security blocked them all, but the persistence was troubling. "I don't understand," Olivia said a month later, reviewing the security reports with Jason in his office at West Global. "Why would anyone be so interested in my children's financial details?" Under the arrangement they had established after Daniel's death, Olivia occasionally worked as a financial consultant for West Global, maintaining her independent business but taking advantage of the proximity to be more available for the twins. Today, however, she was there for a different reason. "I don't think it's about the money itself," Jason said, rubbing his tired eyes. "I think it might be about Daniel. Someone might be looking for information about him through the personal finances he established. But why? Daniel has been dead for 2 years. What secrets could remain?" Jason hesitated, seeming to measure his words. Before he died, Daniel was working on something revolutionary, something he kept separate from the company. "He never mentioned this to me. He didn't want to give false hope. It was an experimental treatment for his condition, based on advanced medical research." Olivia's eyes widened. "You're saying he was trying to cure himself?" "Not just cure himself. The treatment, if successful, could revolutionize how we treat many diseases, including the twins' condition." A chill ran through Olivia. "And you think someone is after this research?" "I'm almost certain. In recent months, there have been suspicious approaches from a pharmaceutical company. Partnership offers, merger suggestions. All declined, all followed by more aggressive attempts to access our servers." Olivia looked out the office window to the Portland skyline. Somewhere out there, someone was trying to reach her children. Not physically, but through the legacy Daniel had left them. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear she felt growing. "We find what they're looking for before they do," Jason answered, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that reminded her of his uncle. "If Daniel hid his research, he left clues, and I think there are only 2 places he would have hidden something so important." "Where?" "In the company, or with the only people he truly considered family." The search began that same night, while the twins slept, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Olivia and Jason combed through the office that had belonged to Daniel in the mansion, now converted into a workspace for her. "Daniel was meticulous," Jason murmured, carefully examining each book on the shelf. "If he hid something, it would be in a system that made sense to him." Olivia nodded, already familiar with Daniel's ordered mind through her children. "Ethan organizes his Lego blocks by size and then by color. Ellie has a classification system for her books based on how important she considers them, not alphabetical order." Jason smiled despite the tension. "Genetics is fascinating, isn't it? They never spent enough time with him to learn those habits." For hours they searched, checking false bottoms in drawers, examining books for notes or marked pages, even removing paintings from walls to check for hidden safes. Nothing. Exhausted, Olivia collapsed into a leather armchair, the same one where she had sat during that first tense conversation with Daniel. "Maybe we're looking in the wrong place," she sighed. "If it was so important, he would have kept it at the company on a secure server." "No," Jason shook his head, leaning against the desk. "The Daniel I knew wouldn't trust something so precious to technology alone. He always said the best secrets are kept in plain sight." Olivia softly completed, her eyes widening. Their gazes turned simultaneously to the one thing in the room they hadn't examined, a simple glass cube in the center of the desk, containing what appeared to be a piece of volcanic rock, a gift from the twins on the first Christmas they spent together. "They gave this to him," Olivia explained, rising to pick up the object. "Ethan was fascinated by volcanoes at the time. They found this rock in a mineral shop and insisted it was perfect because it looked like Uncle Daniel's brain, full of hot ideas." Jason laughed. "That's exactly the kind of metaphor that would move him." Olivia turned the cube in her hands, noticing for the first time a small irregularity in the base. Pressing lightly, a secret compartment opened, revealing a small storage device. "Right in front of all of us," Jason whispered. "Guarded by the only beings he truly loved," Olivia completed, a lump in her throat. The next morning, after spending the night trying to decipher the encrypted files on the drive, Jason was exhausted but exultant. "It's just as I thought," he confirmed, when Olivia entered his office at West Global after dropping the twins at school. "Daniel's medical research. Revolutionary doesn't begin to describe it." "You managed to open the files?" "Only partially. The encryption is complex, typical of him, but what I could see—" Jason shook his head in admiration. "He was working on a treatment to correct certain medical conditions, not just treating symptoms, but addressing the root causes. Like the twins' condition? That's not new, right? There are treatments?" "This goes far beyond current treatments. It's like comparing scissors to a word processor. Daniel found a way to make precise alterations without the side effects that limit current therapies. Olivia's heart raced. This could permanently cure the twins' condition, and thousands of other conditions. This could help countless children and adults with similar health challenges. Why would he keep this secret? Why not develop it through the company? Jason's face grew somber. The partial file I was able to open mentions ethical concerns. Daniel believed that if this technology were commercialized prematurely, it would be abused, available only to the wealthy, creating new forms of inequality. So he was protecting the world from it, protecting it until it could be used the right way. There are mentions of an ethical protocol, safeguards he wanted to establish before the technology was revealed. A silence fell between them as they absorbed the implications. It was broken by Olivia's phone. "Hello?" "Yes, this is Mrs. Mercer." Her expression changed from confusion to alarm. "What? When? I'm coming right now." "What happened?" Jason asked as soon as she hung up. "The school. Someone tried to pick up the twins, claiming to be a driver sent by me. When they asked for ID, he fled." Jason was already grabbing his coat. "Let's go." At the school, the twins were safe but shaken. The attempt to take them had been sophisticated. The man knew their names, details about their routine, even their doctor's name. "He knew about Dr. Reynolds," Olivia murmured to Jason while the twins were being distracted by the principal. "How would he know that?" "The same person who's trying to access the financial files," Jason concluded grimly. "They must have discovered Daniel's research and assumed he might have shared information with the twins, or left clues with them. But they're just children. Children who are connected to him, children he clearly adored." From an outsider's perspective, looking for his research, they're an obvious connection. For the next 2 weeks, the family's life was turned upside down. Jason insisted they temporarily move to the downtown penthouse apartment he rarely used, protected by state-of-the-art security. A private investigation identified the pharmaceutical company Nexalon as the likely source of the access attempts and the approach to the children. "They're known for aggressive intellectual property acquisition tactics," explained the investigator, a former corporate security specialist Jason had hired. "But this crosses all legal boundaries." Meanwhile, West Global's security team continued to work on the drive's encryption, making slow but steady progress. It was during this forced limbo that the dynamic between Olivia and Jason began to subtly shift. Confined in the same space, working together to protect the twins, the carefully maintained barriers between them began to dissolve. Late one night, after the twins had finally fallen asleep in the guest bedroom of Jason's apartment, Olivia found him on the balcony staring out at the city lights. "Any news?" she asked, joining him at the railing. "The security team cracked another layer of encryption. Daniel's work is even more groundbreaking than I initially thought." "That's good news, isn't it?" Jason turned to her, his face troubled in the dim light. "It also means Nexalon has even more reason to pursue it. The value of this research, it's incalculable." Olivia shivered, not entirely from the night air. "I keep thinking about what Daniel would want. He kept this secret for a reason. But he also left it for someone to find," Jason pointed out. "Hidden, but not destroyed. For the right person at the right time." Their eyes met, and for a moment something electric passed between them. A shared understanding, a connection forged through crisis and shared purpose. "Olivia," Jason began, his voice different than she'd ever heard it before. But before he could continue, his phone rang with the shrill tone he'd designated for emergency calls. The call was brief, but alarming. "The apartment's security system has been compromised," he said, already moving toward the twins' room. "We need to move, now." They woke the children, telling them it was a surprise midnight adventure. Within 15 minutes, they were in Jason's car, heading out of the city. "Where are we going?" Olivia asked, looking back at the twins who had remarkably fallen back asleep in the back seat. "The only place I know they won't look," Jason replied, his jaw set with determination. "The lake house, Daniel's personal retreat that's not in any company records. Only Martha and I knew about it." As they drove through the night, Jason's hand found Olivia's across the console, squeezing it reassuringly. Neither of them acknowledged the gesture, but neither pulled away either. The lake house was nothing like Olivia had imagined. Where Daniel's Portland mansion balanced grandeur with tasteful restraint, this remote cabin on the shores of a mountain lake was almost rustic. Built from local timber and stone, it blended into the surrounding forest, as if it had grown there naturally. "Daniel came here to think," Jason explained as he unlocked the door, the pre-dawn light just beginning to silver the lake. No internet, minimal electricity, nothing to distract from pure thought. I can't imagine him roughing it, Olivia admitted, guiding the sleepy twins inside. Jason smiled. You'd be surprised. The corporate titan was just one facet of who he was. The interior was simple but comfortable. A large open living area with a stone fireplace, a small kitchen, and 3 bedrooms. As Jason lit the fire and activated the backup generator, the twins explored with growing excitement, their fear forgotten in the adventure of this new discovery. Mom, there's a telescope, Ethan called from a corner nook. And books everywhere, Ellie added, already pulling volumes from built-in shelves. As the sun rose fully, bathing the cabin in golden light, Olivia stood at the window, watching the mist rise from the lake surface. He never mentioned this place. It was his sanctuary, Jason said, joining her. I think he would have brought them here eventually if he'd had more time. Something in his voice made Olivia turn to study him. The morning light revealed shadows under his eyes, the strain of the past weeks evident in the tightness around his mouth. You need to rest, she said gently. You've been running on adrenaline for days. Jason shook his head. Not until I know you're all safe. We're safer here than anywhere. You said it yourself. No one knows about this place. After ensuring the satellite phone was working and doing a perimeter check, Jason finally agreed to rest. The twins, energized by the new environment, begged to explore the lakeshore. Stay where I can see you from the window, Olivia instructed as they bounced impatiently at the door. With Jason sleeping in one of the bedrooms and the twins collecting rocks by the water's edge, Olivia finally had a moment to process everything that had happened. The research Daniel had hidden, the danger it had brought to her children, and most confusingly, the evolving feelings for Jason that she couldn't quite categorize or contain. She found herself in Daniel's study, a small room off the main living area. Unlike the rest of the cabin, this space felt more like the Daniel she had known, orderly, purposeful, with a simple desk facing the lake view. On the desk sat a framed photograph she'd never seen before, Daniel with a much younger Jason, fishing off a dock that must be just outside. Beside it lay a leather-bound journal. Opening it, she recognized Daniel's precise handwriting immediately. It was dated just weeks before his death. I've made the decision to entrust the research to Jason. He possesses not only the intelligence to understand its implications, but the moral compass to guide its implementation. My only regret is that I won't see Ethan and Ellie grow into the remarkable adults they will surely become. In them, I glimpse what might have been, not just biologically, but the family I never prioritized building. My hope is that Jason will not make the same mistake. The entry continued, detailing Daniel's ethical framework for the therapy he'd developed, strict protocols for access, regulation, and distribution that prioritized those with the greatest need rather than the greatest wealth. Olivia sat back, stunned by the clarity of Daniel's vision. This wasn't just revolutionary science, it was a blueprint for how that science should serve humanity. A noise at the door made her look up. Jason stood there, hair tousled from sleep, watching her with an unreadable expression. I found his journal, she said simply. Jason nodded. I wondered if he'd left it here. You never told me how close you two were. It wasn't always that way, Jason admitted, entering the room and sitting across from her. When my parents died, I was an angry teenager who resented his control. It took years for me to see that his rigidity was his way of showing love, the only way he knew how. Until the twins, Olivia observed. They changed him, showed him a different way to connect. Jason paused, his eyes moving to the window where the twins could be seen constructing an elaborate stone arrangement by the lake. They changed me too. The way he said it made Olivia's heart quicken. Before she could respond, the satellite phone rang, breaking the moment. The call was from West Global's head of security. They had finally broken through the last encryption layer on the drive, revealing the complete research along with Daniel's implementation plan, including a list of potential threats to the technology. Nexalon is specifically named, Jason explained after hanging up. Daniel was approached by them 2 years before his death. They wanted to commercialize an early version of the therapy with fewer safeguards, focusing on enhancement rather than treatment. And he refused, emphatically. According to his notes, they didn't take the rejection well. So all this, the attacks on the fund, the attempt to take the twins, it's revenge. Partly revenge, partly desperation. The notes indicate Nexalon's competing research hit a dead end. They need Daniel's breakthrough. What do we do now? Jason's expression hardened with resolve. We implement Daniel's plan exactly as he intended, starting with exposing Nexalon's tactics. The next morning, while the twins were still asleep, Jason and Olivia sat at the kitchen table with the satellite phone, strategizing with West Global's legal team. The evidence of Nexalon's illegal activities, combined with Daniel's documented concerns, provided everything they needed for both legal action and a public relations offensive. Release everything to the Justice Department and selected media outlets simultaneously, Jason instructed. And proceed with the patent applications exactly as outlined in Daniel's protocol. As the plan was set in motion, a weight seemed to lift from both of them. For the first time in weeks, they allowed themselves to relax, spending the day with the twins exploring the lake property, fishing from the dock, and collecting pine cones for a science project Ethan had improvised. That evening, after the children were asleep, Olivia and Jason sat on the cabin's porch, watching the moonlight shimmer on the lake. Daniel would be proud, Olivia said softly, not just of how you're handling his research, but of who you've become. Jason looked at her, his expression open and vulnerable, in a way she'd never seen before. I didn't do it for Daniel. No? I did it for them. He nodded toward the cabin where the twins slept. And for you. The admission hung in the air between them, changing everything and nothing all at once. Jason, Olivia began, uncertain how to navigate this new territory. The twins already adore you. If something changed between us, you're worried it would complicate things, he finished for her. The twins have already lost one important male figure in their lives. If this didn't work... I understand, Jason said, though disappointment shadowed his eyes. They come first. They always should. Yes, they do, Olivia agreed, which is why I need to be absolutely certain before taking any step that might affect them. A sudden crack of a branch in the woods behind them made them both turn sharply. Jason was on his feet instantly, positioning himself between Olivia and the sound. It's probably just a deer, Olivia whispered, but her hand clutched Jason's arm. Probably, he agreed, but his posture remained alert. Still, let's get inside. They had just reached the door when a figure emerged from the trees at the edge of the clearing. Even in the moonlight, Olivia recognized him, the same man who had tried to pick up the twins from school. How did they find us? She gasped. Jason's face was grim. I don't know, but we need to wake the kids now. Get the twins, Jason whispered urgently. I'll keep him busy. Olivia raced to the bedroom where Ethan and Ellie slept peacefully, unaware of the danger. With trembling hands, she gently shook them awake. Sweethearts, we need to play a game, she whispered, forcing calm into her voice. It's called Secret Passage. We need to be very quiet and follow Mommy, okay? The twins, bleary-eyed but sensing her urgency, nodded silently. Olivia led them through the hallway toward the back of the cabin, remembering Jason's earlier tour where he had casually mentioned a service exit near the kitchen. Outside, she could hear Jason's voice, unnaturally loud and casual, obviously stalling for time. If you're looking for the West property, you've made a wrong turn. This is private land, Jason called out to the intruder. The man's response was too low to hear, but his tone was unmistakably threatening. Olivia found the small door hidden behind a pantry shelf. Remember, this is a quiet game, she whispered to the twins as she ushered them through. So we need to get to the boathouse without making a sound. The night air was sharp with autumn chill as they crept along the narrow path that wound through the pines behind the cabin. Ellie clutched her mother's hand tightly, while Ethan, suddenly understanding that this was no game, moved with unusual stealth. They had nearly reached the small boathouse when a shout and the sound of breaking glass came from the cabin. Olivia fought the urge to look back, to run to Jason. Instead, she hurried the children into the boathouse and locked the door behind them. "Mom, what's happening?" Ethan whispered, his voice small in the darkness. "Uncle Jason is taking care of a problem," Olivia answered, searching frantically for the satellite phone Jason had shown her earlier. "We're going to call for help." Finding the phone, she quickly dialed the emergency number Jason had programmed. Within moments, she was connected to West Global's security chief. "We've been found," she whispered. "Jason is confronting him now. We need help immediately." "Stay where you are," the security chief instructed, Local authorities have been alerted, and our team is already en route. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes. An eternity when someone you care about is in danger. Mom, I'm scared, Ellie whimpered, cuddling against her side. Me too, sweetheart, Olivia admitted, holding both children close. But Uncle Jason is very smart and very strong. He'll be okay. She hoped she wasn't lying to them. The minutes crawled by with excruciating slowness. Then suddenly, the doorknob rattled. The twins gasped in unison. Olivia positioned herself in front of them, grabbing a fishing rod as the only available weapon. Olivia, it's me, Jason's voice came through the door, strained but unmistakable. Relief flooded through her as she unlocked the door. Jason stumbled in, a bruise forming on his cheek, but otherwise unharmed. He's gone, Jason panted, immediately checking the twins for any sign of distress. I convinced him he had the wrong location, but he won't be fooled for long. I called for help, Olivia said. They're on their way. Jason nodded grimly. We need to move. There's a boat. If we can get across the lake to the main road, we can meet them halfway. 10 minutes later, they were skimming across the dark water, the twins huddled under blankets in the bow of the small motorboat. Olivia watched Jason's profile, illuminated occasionally by moonlight breaking through clouds, and realized something fundamental had shifted within her. Fear had crystallized what months of growing closeness had been building toward, the undeniable truth that Jason West had become essential to her, not just as a guardian for her children, not just as a connection to Daniel, but as someone who had carved out his own irreplaceable space in her heart. The flashing lights of police cars and the headlights of West Global's security vehicles greeted them at the public dock on the far side of the lake. Within hours, the man, a private investigator hired by Nexalon, was in custody, and the immediate danger had passed. In the days that followed, Jason's plan unfolded with devastating effectiveness. Nexalon's illegal activities were exposed across major news outlets. Their stock plummeted as investors fled. Federal investigations were launched. The company that had threatened everything Olivia held dear was crumbling under the weight of its own unethical choices. But something more important was happening, something that had nothing to do with corporate warfare or medical breakthroughs. 1 week after their midnight escape, Olivia found Jason in Daniel's study at the mansion, staring at the photograph of himself and his uncle. The twins are asking when we're going back to the lake house, she said, leaning against the doorframe. Apparently being chased in the middle of the night didn't dampen their enthusiasm for the place. Jason smiled wearily. Kids are resilient that way, so are adults sometimes, Olivia replied, moving to stand beside him. Jason, that night at the lake, when I thought you might be hurt, I realized something. He turned to face her, hope and uncertainty warring in his expression. What did you realize? He asked quietly. That I've been so focused on protecting the twins from loss that I nearly missed the chance to give them something more, a complete family, someone who loves them as much as I do. Olivia, let me finish, she said gently. When Daniel came into our lives, I was terrified he would disrupt everything. Then I was afraid of what would happen when he was gone. I've spent so much time being afraid of losing people that I nearly missed seeing what was right in front of me. And what's that? Jason asked, barely breathing. Someone who's been here all along. Someone who risks everything to protect us. Someone who... She took a deep breath. Someone I've fallen in love with. The kiss that followed was gentle, a promise rather than a passion, the beginning of something rather than an ending. The next morning, Olivia found the twins in the kitchen, attempting to make pancakes with Martha's supervision. Did you and Uncle Jason have a private conversation? Ellie asked immediately, her expression knowing beyond her years. We did, Olivia answered, unable to keep the smile from her face. And, both twins demanded in unison, and we decided you're both too smart for your own good. Ethan high-fived his sister. Told you it would work. What would work? Jason asked, entering the kitchen with tousled hair and a smile that matched Olivia's. Operation Family, Ellie declared proudly. It was Ethan's idea. With strategic input from Martha, Ethan added, nodding at the housekeeper who was suspiciously focused on flipping pancakes. Martha? Olivia raised an eyebrow at the older woman. I promised Daniel I'd look after his family, Martha said simply. All of his family. 1 year later, on a perfect spring day, the cherry trees in the garden were in full bloom, as Ellie and Ethan walked Olivia down the aisle toward Jason. The ceremony was small, just Martha, Dr. Reynolds, a few close friends, and the board members of the Daniel West Foundation. In the center of the altar stood a simple glass cube containing a piece of volcanic rock, the same one that had hidden Daniel's research and changed all their lives. After the vows were exchanged and the celebration was in full swing, Olivia found herself standing at the edge of the garden, looking up at the mansion that had once seemed so intimidating and now felt undeniably like home. "Happy?" Jason asked, joining her with a glass of champagne. "More than I ever thought possible," she admitted, "though I keep thinking about that text message, that wrong number that started everything." "The universe works in mysterious ways," Jason mused. A sudden shriek of laughter drew their attention to where the twins were demonstrating some complicated dance move to the assembled guests, their faces flushed with joy and health. "Do you think Daniel somehow knew?" Olivia asked softly. "That day when Harrison brought us here, did he already see this future?" Jason considered the question, watching the children, his children now in every way that mattered. "I don't think he planned this exact outcome," he said finally, "but I think he hoped for it. He was always better at seeing potential than anyone I've ever known." From inside the house, Martha appeared at the French doors, waving them over. "Cake time? The twins are getting restless." As they walked hand in hand back toward the celebration, Olivia thought about all the paths that had led to this moment: the accidental text, the mysterious billionaire, the hidden research, the danger they'd faced together, and most importantly, the love that had grown from the most unexpected beginning. "You know," Jason said as they reached the doors, "the twins are already campaigning for a little brother or sister." Olivia laughed. "Let me guess, they took a vote?" "Unanimous, apparently." As they rejoined their family, the one they had built together from circumstance, choice, and love, Olivia caught sight of a portrait of Daniel hanging in the hallway. In the late afternoon light, it almost seemed as if he was smiling at them, pleased with how his most important legacy had flourished. Not his fortune, not his company, not even his groundbreaking research, but the family that had formed in his absence, connected by choice as much as by chance, bound together by the unexpected inheritance of love.